In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, one God, amen. As Abouna said, the whole topic, the whole theme for this whole retreat is about a godly heart and having a godly heart. Today what we're going to talk about is the characteristics of a godly heart. Now, when I talk about a godly heart, am I talking about, the physical heart, the physical organ? When we talk about the heart, what does it mean when I talk about the heart of someone? If someone has heart. Okay, I hear caring, traits, love, I hear, good. What does a heart mean spiritually? Okay, caring, love, the soul. What do you think of, if I think of a big red heart, what holiday do you think of? Valentine's Day. Why? What is it that the heart is associated with? Love. Could be love, could be feelings, could be emotions, right? If I tell you that someone has a caring heart or someone has a spiritual heart, like if someone does a really good deed, a really unselfish deed, you say, wow, that person has a big heart, or a really good heart, right? If you characterize someone, you say, wow, that person has a really good heart. What is the difference then between having a good heart or an evil heart? What is it? What is the difference in the characteristic then about me having a good heart versus an evil heart? Okay, could be compassion. See, love, compassion. What are all these things? What do they have in common? What are they? Feelings. How do you know when something is good or when something is bad? Because what we want to do, what we want to discuss today, is what does it mean to have a good heart, and how can I have I'm going to first talk about having a good heart, and then we'll talk about a pure heart. That's the two aspects of this discussion that we're going to have today. Love, feelings, emotions, are they good or bad? Okay. Love, how many people think love is good? Raise your hand. Okay, hands down. Anger, how many people think anger is good? Raise your hand. Okay, hands down. Jealousy. How many people think jealousy is good? Raise your hand. Okay, how many people are confused? Okay, good. Why? It's not the emotion in and of itself that's good or bad. It's how we use it, right? God created us, and He gave us all the different kind of emotions. He gave us all the different kind of feelings, didn't He? Right? So for example, God gave me anger. And how does God want me to use anger? Sin. Yeah, the Bible says, be angry and do not sin. Right? But what do? I get angry and what? Smack my brother, right? So it's taking that emotion and using it in the right way. What's one that we wouldn't think of? Jealousy. Okay, is jealousy good or bad? We usually would think of jealousy being bad, right? But God says about Himself, I am a jealous God. And can God sin? No. Obviously not. So it's not the emotion in and of itself, but how we use it. And every emotion has the right way that it was meant to be used, and it has its misuse that leads to sin. So it's using the emotion in the right way, in the right time, in the right place. Okay? The misuse of it is what leads to sin or leads to wrong. For example, if I talk about love, can loving someone be bad? Well, our Lord said, if anyone loves, their mother, their sister, their wife, their brother, their son, their daughter, whatever, more than me, then what? They're not worthy of me, right? So even every emotion, everything you can feel, has a right way to be used and a wrong way to be used. There's one of the fathers of the church. His name is St. Gregory of Nyssa. And he wrote a book about the soul and about the characteristics of the soul and the characteristics of the feeling and characteristics of the spirit. And what he said was, did you guys ever see a charioteer? Did you ever see did you ever hear the movie Ben-Hur? Or did you ever see like the Roman movies where you have a guy in a chariot and he has a bunch of horses in front of him? He likened that each of us has a horse for each of the feelings or each of the emotions that are in front of us. So you are, picture yourself, every single person who's sitting in front of me, picture yourself in front of a chariot. And picture in front of you a rope tied to many horses. And each of these horses is a different emotion. So give me an example of emotions you feel, things you feel at times. Huh? I just didn't. Hate, that's one. Happiness, that's one. Sadness, that's another one. Confusion, that's another one. What other kind of things do you feel? Fear, that's another one. Temptation, that's another one, right? We have all these kind of things. The human being is supposed to be, think of yourself as supposed to be in your chariot, and you are driving these horses, and you are riding, you're the one in control, and you're guiding these horses to guide you the right way, okay? The fact that we have the gift of reason is what makes us special, you know? Reason is what separates us from all the other kinds of animal life. Whoever heard me give this analogy of the animal? Okay, I'm going to give it again. If you heard me, I'm going to say it again anyway. I'm going to be repetitive. All right. How do you tell a plant is alive? It grows. It's green. What else? How do you tell a plant is alive? Biometers. Stands upright. Good. Photosynthesis. Produces fruit. What else? It takes in food. Right? It takes in food. It produces fruit. All these kind of things you could tell a plant is alive, right? How do you tell an animal is alive? Does it take in food? Yeah. Does it grow? Does it stand? So these are the same things that, the same characteristics of plant life. It takes in food, it grows, it reproduces, produces fruit, all these kind of things, right? What makes an animal different than a plant? It moves, it makes sounds. It's loud. Okay, different kind of cells and different kind of organs. Has feelings. How many people here have a pet? Okay. When you walk in your house, what does your pet do? If say you have a puppy or something, it'll run up to you, it'll either run away from you, it's afraid of you, or hopefully for the most of us, if it's a little puppy or something, it'll run up and be very happy to see us, right? Do animals have emotions? You bet they do. Okay? Animals have feelings and animals have emotions, and they're based on instinct. What do I mean by that? An animal feels the instinct to eat, it feels the drive to eat, and so it eats. Right? It's kind of like action-reaction kind of thing. A stimulus, and there's action according to it. Okay? So we talked about plants, and then we talked about animals. Humans, how do you tell a human being is alive? Do we take in food? Do we grow? Do we produce fruit? Good. What else? How else do you tell a human being is alive? Communicate. Heartbeat. Showing emotions. Okay, so what makes now a human being different than an animal? What about the soul? Okay, and what's the word? I just heard it? Reason. Okay, now, many of us make, many decisions when we're throughout our day, right? You wake up in the morning and you say, maybe I'll eat cereal for breakfast, and you say, okay, should I eat cereal? Should I eat, Fruity Pebbles or Cocoa Pebbles, right? And that's a decision right there. And then you go throughout your day and you say, okay, should I wear this blue shirt or this green shirt, okay? And you go through your day making decisions, right? The fact that I have the gift of reason, okay, in my decision-making process, I'm supposed to use the reason to make the right decisions at the right time, okay? So for an animal, for example, for an animal to feel an instinct or feel a drive, it acts on that instinct, and there's no good or bad involved, there's no reasoning involved. The animal's hungry, so it eats, right? For a human being, though, my reason is the checkpoint for all my feelings and for all my emotions. My reason is the checkpoint, is what's supposed to keep in check, is supposed to keep in balance all my feelings and all my emotions. What do I mean by this? I said you wake up in the morning and you say to yourself you want to eat breakfast, but then maybe it's a fasting day, so maybe I shouldn't be eating. You know, and if it's something simple like clothes we're wearing, right? Does it make a difference what you wear? No, but then maybe, maybe what I put on might be a stumbling block to someone else, so maybe I should think about a different outfit I should wear. So every decision should be based on my reason, not just only my feelings. I should keep my feelings in check using my reasoning. You understand? So remember that plant life, okay, we said all the characteristics of plant life. Animal life has the same basic characteristics of life that a plant has, but the difference that an animal is, an animal can what? Can have feelings and emotions, right? And humans is the same characteristics as the plants and animals, but then the main difference in humans is what? The gift of reason. And that reason is how we're made in God's image, is how we're made in God's, it's one of the ways we're made in God's image, in God's way. Going back to the charioteer example, you can picture yourself driving all these different horses. You can picture yourself in your chariot, and you're controlling these horses, and you're moving along, right? I am supposed to be in control of all my feelings, supposed to be in control of my emotions, and supposed to be moving forward, guiding them. But what happens to us sometimes? Are we in control of our feelings? No, our feelings are in control of us, right? And then so what happens when my feelings are in control of me? Right? Instead of me controlling and moving along in the right direction, I have these horses that are running and they're just dragging me along. So picture, a horse taking off and you're just hanging on with a string and just being dragged, following it everywhere it's going. As a human being, I'm supposed to use my reason to keep my life in order and keep my life in check and move in the right way. And this is the analogy that St. Gregory of Nyssa gives, talking about emotions and feelings and so on. So when it comes to having a pure heart, we are all going to feel all different kinds of thoughts, all different kinds of feelings, all different kinds of emotions. Everything is meant for good. Every thought, every emotion, every feeling, everything that I have in my heart, God gives me for a purpose, and God gives me for a reason, and it's meant to be used in the right way, in the right time, for the right purpose to fulfill God's will. The problem is, one second, the problem is we misuse, or we alter, or the things that are meant for good end up being temptations. The temptation is to use them in the wrong way or use them in the bad way. And so having a pure heart is, the first thing is distinguishing what's meant for good and what's meant for bad. You get? Question?
Yeah, I don't really understand what you just said.
Okay, which part? Go ahead.
The last part that you said.
Okay.
God put in every feeling for a good reason.
Okay.
But, don't we have free will? Can we generate a thought? Can we generate a feeling,
Yes. What I mean is, okay, what I don't mean that everything that we feel, okay, I'll give you an example. Every feeling that we feel is meant to be used for good. We're the ones who misuse them and use them in the wrong way.
As in the feeling, as like the word anger or the word
Right.
jealousy.
Right. But say, for example, I get a temptation in my head. I'm not saying that temptation is from God or meant for good. It's a misuse of the right thing that God did set in place. Any other questions so far? What does it mean for someone to have a godly heart? What does it mean for someone to have a pure heart? What are the characteristics of a pure heart? Ask yourself right now, do I have a pure heart? Ask yourself right now, do I have a pure heart? Do I have the kind of heart that God could look at and realize the love for Him and the purity of? If I compare myself to the saints, right? If I compare myself to the saints, do I have the same kind of love and the same kind of Do I have the same kind of love and the same kind of feelings toward God as they had? Do I have the kind of a pure heart that they had? What is purity? How would you define purity?
Good intentions.
Okay, good intentions.
Purity of heart, absence of sin?
Absence of sin.
Am I saying purity of heart or just purity in general?
Purity of heart, and purity in general. Either or.
Has nothing bad in it.
Nothing bad in it. Good.
It's not mixed with anything. It's like one thing.
Good.
Innocent, simple.
Good. I heard two things that I want to go with because that's the angle I'm looking at here. Not mixed with anything or not like having that thing by itself. Gold. What is the best kind of gold that you can buy? 24 karat gold, right? What's the difference between 24 karat gold, 18 karat gold, or what else is there? 10? 14, 16? I don't know. I don't buy gold enough. What is the difference in the grades of gold? What makes one different than the other? Good, right? 24 karat gold is most pure gold, right? If you buy the other kind of gold, say you buy whatever 16 karat or 14 karat, then it has other things mixed in, right? It's not pure. Think of your heart as gold that's supposed to be dedicated to God. What does it mean to have a pure heart? What does it mean to have a godly heart? That my heart consists of a love for God and nothing else. Everything else that I will or everything else that I desire comes second. You know, I'm dedicated purely, my heart is dedicated purely to God. It's not, okay, 50% God and then, 25% this, 20% that. No. It's dedicated purely to God and to loving God. This whole entire retreat, on this whole retreat, the whole topic is about having a godly heart. And let me just go through the titles of the topics with you. The first one is kind of an introduction and what does it mean to have a godly heart. Then we're going to talk about having the beat of a godly heart, the flow of a godly heart, the stress test of a godly heart, the transplant of a godly heart. How can I have a godly heart in the end? So that's the goal of this is to really say to myself, is my heart pure? Is my heart godly? Is my heart the kind of heart that God would see and be happy with? Is my heart the kind of heart that God would see and it makes Him joyous? You know? What can we do in our lives to purify our hearts? Ask yourself seriously, do I have a pure heart? Don't answer this out loud. Just think to your head right now, okay? My heart right now before God. Can I say that my heart right now before God is pure? Okay, what can I do to purify my heart?
Lifestyle changes.
Okay, lifestyle changes. What do you mean? Give me an example.
For example, if you focus too much on what's on TV every day or the computer, you might set aside a certain amount of time and then go cold turkey from there. Say it's 2 hours a day or something, or an hour a day.
Okay.
And then go, instead of using that time to go on Facebook or watch House, read the Bible or Ekbeya or learn a new hymn or be productive in terms of getting closer to God instead of your computer or your TV.
Good. So like changing my lifestyle, changing my schedule, doing what I can in my... What if I realize that I'm feeling different feelings, I'm feeling different temptations, and that my heart is not pure? What can I do to set myself on the right track? How can I purify my heart? Is it possible?
Pray.
What can I do?
Pray.
Good. Prayer, first and foremost, right? Praying is really uniting with God. Praying, speaking to God. You know what it is? We hear so much, and we take it as being generic, right? When we speak to our servants or when we hear it from our Father confessions, they always talk to us about prayer. They always talk to us about Bible reading. And so we think to ourselves, okay, Abouna's telling me to pray, Abouna's telling me to read the Bible, right? And we hear these things and we take it as if it's like the same thing that I'm being told over and over. If we practice this, if I truly, I'm telling you, can everyone eyes on me for a second? If you want to truly transform your life, if you want to truly turn your heart back to God, if you truly say the prayer in your heart and say, Lord, I want to know you, I want my heart to be pure, I want to love you more, and in your life you implement a system of prayer, whatever it is with your father of confession, however your father of confession guides you, if it's praying in the morning and praying at night, and if you seriously implement prayer and spiritual reading, with reading, again, under the guidance of your father of confession, how much you read each day, it truly, truly, truly transforms you. It truly changes you. It truly makes you into a new person. In my own life, I'm telling you, when I'm on point with my prayer and my Bible reading, and then when I slack or when I get lazy, I can so see the difference in my life day to day, the difference of when I'm faithful in my spiritual practices and when I'm not. So it's always being aware, always working on having that pure heart. Looking at everything with purity. Looking at instead of looking at someone with envy or looking at someone in a negative, looking at everyone with good. Instead of thinking negative thoughts or negative temptations towards someone, having the purity of heart to be able to see it with good, to think and do nothing but good towards God and towards others in my life. So those were the two basic things I wanted to focus on in this talk, was the characteristics, just recapping it briefly, the characteristics of a pure heart, that everything is meant for good, that every emotion, everything that God gave us is meant for good. It's the perversion of it and the misusing of it that leads to sin. So finding out the right use and the right way to do everything. The second thing is the purity of my heart. My heart being dedicated to God, and my heart being dedicated to the love of God, and not having anything else but God. So just like pure gold, gold is pure by the not being tainted with anything else, my heart not being tainted with anything else. Any questions? Yes.
You just talked about how rather than looking at someone, say, with envy, and then create an evil thought in your mind, say, because we all fall, like often, say that we look at a person with envy and create an evil thought in our mind, how do we go from, I guess, like, instead of staying in that thought, how do we switch it around?
Okay.
And go back to a good thought?
The question is, if say I do look at somebody with envy, right? I look at somebody else and I see what they've achieved, I see what they do, I see what they have, and I realize, wow, you realize that you envy that person. What can we do to switch it? What do you guys think? You look at somebody with envy, what can you do to switch it? How can you change? Talk loud so, yeah, everyone could hear.
You would look at what they have and how they achieved it, and maybe emulate certain things, aspects of them that are good.
Good. Jealousy, if I look at the life of, Philopatir Mercurius, or if I look at the life of Saint Mina, or I look at the life of Saint Elizabeth, or whoever, and I see, wow, look what this person has done, I respect what they have done and admire what they have done, right? And I want to be like them. That is the right use of jealousy. The right use is seeing what someone has done or seeing the good that they have done, wanting to be good like that and copying or emulating what they've done, right? Instead, what do? Oh, look at her dress, look at her hair, it's so nice, I hate her, right? That's the mentality of the attitude. Realize, when I find myself envying someone, first of all, instead of thinking negatively towards someone, think of it as a compliment towards that person. Wow, look at the good. Because what you're doing is you're recognizing good. So recognize the good that you admire in the person, right? And then second, in your reaction to it, instead of being like hating that person and or wanting evil towards that person because of what they have, think about praising that person, the good of what led them to that, and then ask yourself, how can I make myself positive in the same way? You know, so recognizing the good in others, and instead of using as a negative and talking negative or thinking negatively, even if it's in my own heart, I can think and not say it to anyone. But God knows it, and it's in my heart, so I'm not pure. So turn it around and use it in a good way of what can I do that I can change myself into what I respect or what I admire in that person. You get what I'm saying? Good. Does that answer your question? Any other comments or questions? Anything?
When Christ overturned the tables of the temple,
Uh-huh.
I'm just wondering what can we say if someone asks us, well, you say in Christianity not to be angry.
Fathers. Okay, so the question is, when Christ overturned the tables, some people will misuse that and say, see, Christ got angry, I could be angry. Right? That's your question? How do we answer in response? All right, from you guys first. What's the response? Yes?
His anger was directed toward evil, and because they were using God's temple as a bordering ground, so it was towards evil, not towards good.
Okay, so it was a correction towards evil.
His anger was controlled. He didn't touch anybody.
Okay, he didn't actually hurt anyone, or going by what you guys are saying. Other comments?
I heard from another talk that he first of all, he's God, number one, and secondly, is he gave a period for people to come to him and to learn his way, and then it was the beginning of his judgment towards others.
Let me ask you this. Say someone comes up to me and smacks me in the face. Do me a favor, come here. Smack me in the face.
No,
Really do it.
no, really.
Smack Abouna. All right, he'll do it. Smack me in the face. Go ahead. Smack me in the face.
Oh my God.
He was very nice. He was very gentle. You know, last time I gave this, I was doing a similar talk when someone asked me a similar question once, and the person really whacked me. Everyone was like, so. But it wakes people up, so that's good. So he just smacked me in the face, right? Make believe he really hurt me. How can I react to someone who really hurt me? How can I react to somebody who hurt me? Turn the other cheek, right? Do you know what is the godly way to? Do you know what the godly way is to answer? The godly way to turn back to this? Instead of being revengeful, where, oh, he smacked me, so I'm going to smack him back, right? What is the godly way? Realize, Mark just smacked me. Mark is going to be judged by God for smacking me. I love Mark so much that I don't want him to be punished for smacking me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to correct him. Okay, I'm going to humbly correct him. But I'm going to humbly correct him, not because, oh, you got me, so I'm going to get you back. No, that's not my attitude. I'm going to correct him because you hurt me, but I love you so much that I want to correct you because I care about your salvation. So I don't care about my revenge, I care about you. You get what I'm saying? How many people here serve? How many people here serve Sunday school or serve classes? Okay, hands down. When we're serving and we're in a Sunday school class and kids act up and kids are rowdy, how do we react? How do we react? I'll tell you something. I have been in situations where serving in a Sunday school class, and I'm telling you, before priesthood, I was a teacher. I worked as a high school teacher for 7 years, high school math. I'm telling you, my first year teaching, I wanted to quit at the end of the year because they drove me. You know how people drive new teachers crazy? And after that, I learned how to be disciplined. I learned how to discipline at least better than I was in the beginning. You know, because I wanted to quit, and my teacher was like, "Stick with it. You'll be good. You know, you'll get the hang of it." And so, it made me grow up a lot. Actually, it made me realize. I think it prepared me in a way. God used it in a way to prepare me for parenthood, for service, for priesthood, for a lot of things. If I have a bunch of kids in my Sunday school class, and you can have a group of kids that go crazy, and all of a sudden the whole class lost control, and no benefit comes out of the class just because of those few. You know what I mean? It is your responsibility to correct and to set people on the right path. You know? What it comes down to is what is the motive or what is the intent in your heart? Is it that person did something against you, so you want to show your power, so you're going to knock them down to lift yourself up kind of thing? No. It's correcting the person because the same thing like the hitting situation. I care so much about that person that I want their salvation. Okay? And even though they're the ones that are doing wrong, I want to correct them because I love them and because I care them so much. You see the difference? So the question was about Christ. Right? The question was about Christ and overturning the table and was that anger. Our Lord was teaching a lesson and He was disciplining because they were misusing at the temple and they were basically desecrating and everything that they were doing. So our Lord was teaching a lesson and He was correcting for the sake of benefiting for the people. Right? Whom the Lord loves, He chastises. So it's about the intent and about, it's basically about the person's intent when they're correcting. Is it like an anger, revengeful kind of thing? Or is it meant out of love because you really want the person to fix themselves because you don't want them to keep hurting themselves? Get it? Fathers, anything to add? Add, please. Yeah. Listen up.
In addition to this, طبعا it's wonderful. In addition to this, there is the zeal, because it is written about Christ, the zeal of your house has overcome me, or has overtaken me. So the zeal about the house of God. Imagine that one day you see a couple committing adultery in the altar. What you gonna do? What you gonna do? It's the same thing with Christ. And third thing that Christ is authorized to do this because all authority has been given to Him, including the authority of judgment and punishment people. So He is authorized to do this, but we are not authorized to do this. Yeah.
But
so the motive, as Abouna said, the zeal of God's house and the authority which He has from the Father.
Okay. But again, if we're applying it to our lives, say for example, it's me with my child, then I am supposed to, in love, discipline them, to correct them, and for the sake of caring about their salvation, for the sake of loving them. That's one. Again, this is one of the things where, like, love is good or bad, but sometimes you have parents that have so much love that they spoil. So they end up using the good thing in the wrong way. Good. Other comments or questions, Mark? Work our way back.
If you had that intention of love to the other person, they could still take it the wrong way. Is it then on you?
If you try to correct, so you're saying if you try to correct, if you try to help, and you have good intentions, but they take it the wrong way.
Right.
And then what's your question? Is it?
So is it on you? Is it what if they leave the church or they just stop coming to Sunday school or something like that?
Fathers want to help me out?
Yeah, I just I know this is a difficult situation when you try to correct someone but they take it the wrong way. Well, you try to give them. I ask myself, did I give them the best instruction in the best way? Because sometimes we're trying to help someone who has the good intention, but I don't have the right method. So I have to first ask myself, if I give the right message and the right way, and they still went and left, I mean, at some point, I mean, they're going to be responsible for themselves. You try to go the extra distance. Like the example in the Bible, if someone, let's say, have wronged you, and you go and first reconcile with them, right? You have made the attempt. They refuse. You take 2 or 3 with you. They still refuse. Then you do what? Take the church. And then if they still refuse after that, and for you they're like يعني non-believers. So as long as as long as I've did the what I could have done the best way, I've exhausted all possible ways, it's not on you anymore. Okay. I mean, you have to draw a line. There's a boundary. You cannot make yourself guilty for something that you're not guilty of. Okay. Do you have a question?
Well, I don't want to get us off topic, but I had a question regarding the extent to which we should take it upon ourselves to protect others. Because, for example, a lot of people will take the initiative where it's not necessary. For example, with non-believers, as you mentioned, and you get yourself into a lot of messes. And it's like, well, where do you start minding your own business? Because it could, cause more trouble than good.
I think in many ways we're given authority. Like there are clear examples where people are given authority for the correction of others. You know what I mean? Like Abouna said, Christ himself has the authority. So the cleansing of the temple, he had the authority to do that. You know, for example, if a child in confession comes to any priest, they're going to want the best for that person. So that's clear that they have that authority. You know, a parent with a child, obviously they have that authority. A servant with someone, you know, there's definitely that authority there. If you are a friend with someone, right? If you are truly a close friend with someone, if you're truly loving and people know you, like people know you that you care about them, then if you give them advice or if you give them correction, even if they disagree with what you're saying, they respect what you said because they know, people know like your motive and your intention in speaking with them, you know? Like if someone knows that you care about them, even if they don't want to stop what they're doing or they don't want to change, they'll respect what you're saying and they just won't like ignore it. You know what I'm saying? But obviously I can't go to someone who, you know, I don't know that well and start lecturing them. They're going to be like, who are you? Or they're going to be defensive. And you know what I mean? So I think using common sense or using logic of when you should speak to someone or not. Think about how the person would take it. Think about, are you in a position of responsibility or are you close enough to that person where it is your place? Or because maybe it's not our place. Maybe, maybe for me to say something to someone, no good would come out of it. You know, so maybe I pray or I think about who would be able to speak to them in a different way. You know? Mark?
Just regarding that question, I always thought that if you had the opportunity to say what's right, whether or not the person's going to take it well, you should say it. Because it even says in like Ezekiel that we're made like watchmen over a town, and we have to give the call that there's some danger whether or not they take it. Otherwise, their blood is on our head.
Okay. It's a difficult question. It all depends on how you are as a person and what you would say to that person. You know what I mean? Like if I randomly go and start, you know, preaching and yelling and chastising at people that like I'm not that close with or don't know me, is that going to lead to positive
Outcome.
you know, like
People with this,
say it again?
like the people who have like the God hates.
Yeah. Like you get the point is, if you're put in the position where you're speaking with someone and you're asked, you know, is this right or wrong or whatever, right? You speak the truth in that situation from your heart about what you know is right and wrong. So I'm not going to, if someone asks me, you know, is this a sin? I'm not going to deny if something is a sin, you know? But just because I hear about somebody doing something wrong, right? The watchman thing is to care for that person because you care for their salvation, that you want the best for them. It doesn't necessarily mean that you yourself have to go to them or you can be wise about how you handle the situation. Maybe you can pray for them. Maybe you can know someone who would be willing to. If you yourself are not able to speak to them, you get somebody who is. Like it's caring for somebody, and it's the watchman specifically has that responsibility. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yes.
I also think like it's up to the person's ability. Like if the guy knows that he's able to help the person and he doesn't, like for example Jonah, when God knew he was able to go and preach and convert the people, and Jonah refused, that meant that he had the ability but he didn't want to. I think that's his sin. That's where that.
Okay, good. We'll take like one or two last questions. That's it. Michael and then Michael. Go ahead.
Going back to the first question that we had, this old Egyptian mentality.
What was the question? Remind us again.
It was about dealing with kids and hitting them and stuff like that.
Okay.
And listening to an old view from an old servant, was born, raised in Egypt and served in Egypt. There's this old method saying that in order to heal the wound, you need to cut it first, and then with another hand to heal it. Saying that you have to be rough first, then you go with another hand and wound, to heal it. What's your opinion about that? And what are the extremes of that?
It depends on you, and it depends on the situation that's in front of you. Are you talking about discipline with like children or a class or kids in front of you?
Exactly.
Obviously, you don't want to just be yelling all the time and just be like, you don't want to be the kind of Sunday school teacher that kids come in and you're just yelling and you're mean and you're whatever and you don't show any love, because that's gonna just do the extreme opposite. You know what I'm saying? At the same time, you want to be so nice and so loving that the kids are running around the room and have you tied, hanging from the ceiling, and you're like, guys, please sit down. You don't want to, you don't want to be in one extreme or the other. And in my personal experience from education, you start off strict. You start off strict because kids, I'll tell you something, as a teacher, as a high school teacher, not in church, when you are very, very nice from the beginning and you let everything go, people don't respect the fact that you are a teacher. It's kind of like a parent who doesn't teach their kids respect for the parenthood. The way a child looks at his father, for example, is the same way the child will look at God. So if the child never learns to respect, they don't know how to respect the father, so they never learn how to respect God either. So it's start off stating the rules that things are clear, then throughout as time goes, you show love, and they're going to see that you love them. You know what I mean? But if you don't start off with any rules, if everything goes, it's very hard to go from like chaos and then try to make it orderly after that. But it's like like a car battery, positive, negative. You need them both at the same time to run. If you just have the positive or you just have the negative, it needs to be balanced. And it depends on the particular class and the servant and the individual students. Like you need to find that perfect balance of like justice and love at the same time. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Anything?
Well, I was thinking also like sometimes during liturgy or during prayer in general, and you have like you're trying to tell a kid to stop talking or to stand up during liturgy, and that kid is stubborn or is very arrogant, and you try to be nice at first. You try to explain to him. Yes, sometimes it works and you listen, but sometimes they're just too stubborn or they have no respect for each other because they're not raised in a good manner. So in that sense, some servant says, go for the strict way. If he's going crazy and he's yelling and screaming in church, then just pull him out by the ear or whatever. But then, personally, I think they're not going to see God's love in that sense. So I'm just having confusion on what to do with that situation.
Anytime you're in a position like that, remember the two at the same time. So it's kind of like a stranger won't take correction from you, but someone who knows you love them will take correction. So work on loving that person so that when you do correct, they'll listen to you. You know what I'm saying? Like if it is a kid in your class, go out of your way, visit that person, take them out for pizza, go out of your way to build your relationship with that particular person so that when you do come to correct them, they will accept it because they know you love them. You're not just a random guy who's going to come at them and yell at them. One last final question, and that's it. Yes?
I just want to, I just think if you're of authority and you're telling the kid to do something,
Yep.
stop talking. I feel like no matter how you say it, you have to say it, even though if he doesn't take it instantly, if he doesn't respect you at that moment, that later on he will realize that, you have to be more respectful, you have to be kind. So I feel like whether you are very kind or very strict, like I know services who were boring, and many kids didn't listen or didn't want to listen. But over time, they realized that this person is saying something important.
Yeah, yeah.
Should feel. So I feel like all this stuff, all these things take time for it to happen.
Good. To wrap up for the whole theme, just to go to summarize the theme of what we're talking about, a godly heart. And I know we went on a lot of questions, a lot of tangents and stuff. But the theme of a godly heart. How can I have a godly heart? How can I use my emotions in the right way to have a godly heart? And how a purity of my heart that I love God and God alone. Please, you guys are lucky, you guys are blessed. And that these next 3-4 days, you have a retreat, you will have different speakers coming to you each day. Make sure, yes, it's good that we have fellowship and we have, with our friends and hanging out and everything. Make sure that you benefit from these days as much as you possibly can. Really think to yourself, do I have a pure heart before God? God, how can I purify my heart before you? In your prayers these next few days, and in your attitude during lectures and listening to the different speakers, really make sure you take advantage of applying these things to your life, and really try to leave the retreat better or in a higher place than when you came in. Okay? Thank you for listening, and glory be to God forever. Amen. It's not, forgive me, no problem.
I'd like to thank Abouna John for giving us this moving word. I think, I'm very also appreciative of the questions. Actually, although the questions kind of touch on different things, this verse came to my mind while we're wrapping up, because we're talking about dealing with little kids, or dealing maybe with your friends, maybe dealing with a family member, dealing with. There's a common bond with all of this, and this is what's in your heart. A good man, this is Luke 6:45, a good man out of the good treasure of his heart brings forth good. An evil man out of evil treasure of his heart brings forth evil. For out of the abundance of the heart his mouth speaks. So you can see now, it all comes down to what's inside. What's inside. Because people around you are very smart. Even the little kid's very smart. He can tell if you're genuine or not. He can tell if if your friend can tell if you're convinced, if you're just trying to have an argument for the sake of an argument because you passionately believe in something. So it goes to what's your foundation. You can build the fanciest building, but without a foundation, Abouna is here knows this more than me. No matter how beautiful your building, without the foundation, it's gonna fall flat. So the foundation begins within, and you have total authority over your life and your heart. You don't need someone to tell you, do this. You need to exercise my authority. Actually, many times we just blame it. Oh, it's this problem happened because of what this person said, or what this person said, this idea of finding someone, a scapegoat, finding someone to blame my problems on. But I think Abouna is saying, part of today's lecture, the ball is in your court now. It's time for us to exercise the authority over our own lives. Even the book of Proverbs says, he who rules himself is better than the ruler of a city. You could be better than Mayor Bloomberg or whoever your favorite mayor is. You can be way better than him if I can exercise full authority over my own life. So, thank God for this blessing. Thank Abouna again for taking the time and coming here with us. We have a small token of appreciation, but it's another building. We'll get to that in due time. We're sort of on time. Thank God. I like that. Be on time. Right now.